I'm doing it now. It just started.
Uh,
FLF episode 7 tonight. Dan and I are without John to the start of the show. Maybe he'll be back, maybe he won't. But we are joined by our guest, Jimbo. Jimbo is the bass player for the band Blotter. And we were just talking about bugs before show. And I think that we should just keep that rolling. So Dan is concerned about bed bugs.
Oh, it goes beyond concerns, man. Like, I had to live with them for a little while in that apartment. I moved into an apartment with some guys that were in denial about it, and it wasn't bad because whoever lived in the room before me, they were gone for a while, so they went dormant. But as soon as I got there, they came to life, and they tried to eat me and my girlfriend and my pet rabbit. Dude, it was the worst time of my life. I literally left everything I had behind. And I was like, I was just earlier with my current girlfriend. I was telling her, like, if we get them in the house, because apparently Europe has like a problem with those now. And she has to pet sit for some people that are from England and from France and other places. I told her, I was like, if they get in our house, I'm setting everything outside and I'm setting it on fire and then I'm setting the apartment on fire.
That's a completely
So
rational thing to do.
kill it with fire,
absolutely.
man.
Yeah, I know. So, like, I got into pest control. I was in pest control for a number of years because I had bed bugs. When I moved to Raleigh, my neighbors had bed bugs, and it wasn't a townhouse. And they migrated through the wall into my room, and it's fucking terrible, dude. I threw away everything and moved because I couldn't afford a bed bug treatment. And then 2 months after I couldn't afford a bed bug treatment, a pest control company hired me. I haven't had a problem with bugs ever since. So. Now, Jimbo, I know you did that for a long time, and one of the things
Oh
I
yeah.
do miss about pest control is sharing stories about the worst houses that you've ever been in. And
Oof.
I know for me, there was one house we did a train. They weren't an actual customer, but we helped them out. It was a slumlord situation, and the house had bed bugs and German roaches, and it was a
Oh
nightmare walking through
man.
that
Oh
house.
yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
the
I've
worst. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
I was just gonna say I dealt with German roaches too whenever I lived in the hood.
Yeah, that's a popular place for
Mhm.
them to live. I know the worst place I ever walked into. It was almost like a horror movie. Like it was just pouring down rain. I had to cancel all my appointments, and there was just this one. Like it was like a 1 o'clock appointment I had to wait for, and I called him up. I'm like, "Hey, I'm Richard. I've got you down for this appointment. We can either cancel it and reschedule it, or I can come do the inside and then I do the outside later." Like, oh my God, just come clean, do the inside. She's like, it's my sister's house and she has a problem. I was like, oh no, oh no, what am I getting into? And it was the worst German roach infestation that I'd ever seen. I opened the door and roaches fell on me. And
Oh,
Oh,
dude, they had like the door frame or like a hallway frame, like going from one room to the other room that was built on top of bricks. And I put some roach bait behind the door frame in like the mortar joint. And I could literally see roaches coming out to eat it. It was crazy, dude. It made me sick inside. And the woman clearly wasn't right. It was amazing
yeah.
she was living on her own, but
was
she
she a
wasn't helping
hoarder?
her out with that situation. I'm going to say yes. She was in the process of moving out, so a lot of the stuff had been taken out of the house already. But there was a 3 foot pile of clothes in the middle of the basement.
Mm.
I'm guessing that the house was in pretty bad order before I got there. So, but yeah, Jimbo, do you have a fun one?
Yeah, it goes with yours actually. I had to go. It's bad when you pull up in a trailer park
Oh
when you
yeah,
know it's just gonna be something bad. I went
something
in there,
rough's going
man.
on in there.
Yeah, I went in there. You look around, every single little crack, crevice, anywhere. All you saw was the little roaches
Just the
sticking out
antennas sticking out.
everywhere.
Ugh, that's rough. Do they
Yeah.
have dogs too?
I don't think they had a dog there, but I was
Yeah.
there for German roaches and bed bugs.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah. So I saw the roaches as soon as I walked in, and I mean it was everywhere, every single place you looked there. But anyway, I went and inspected the bed. First bed I pulled up, I swear to God, there was roaches and bed bugs holding hands, singing "Kumbaya." Dude, that was rough. It was everywhere. They said they hate. Of course, they always say, "Man, we didn't have these till last month. They just started showing up."
I don't know where they came from.
Way.
Well, man, this thing about that is like people are blind to some of their own faults, and there are people who are blind to like dirtiness. They're just so comfortable and used to it, they don't understand that what I'm living in is filth. Like I remember there was one customer. It was a family they were living in, and it was actually a trailer. That's not to say anything negative about trailers at all. It's just kind of the situation they were in, right? But she was a very angry old woman, and her husband was deaf and blind, and her kids lived there. And me and Dan lived. We shared a closet room for a little while in a trailer. So, it was a single wide, right? And there's like this. It's the size of my walk-in closet right now. But we had a futon and a rack for the one nice outfit I had.
Dude, do you remember there was 7-foot ceilings, and for some reason we had ceiling fans in there, and me and my brother are both 6 foot tall. We had to duck every time we went anywhere in that house.
You're underselling John. John is 6'6" ish.
Yeah,
maybe more. He's got big giant clown feet too. I remember the day I enlisted, I tripped over John's shoes on my way to get a 6-pack out of the refrigerator after like a 12-hour shift or something like that. My 6-pack was a 1-pack, and I was so upset. I went and talked to the recruiter later that day. But yeah, man, we were sharing. Anyways, the son was in that room, and he was a gamer, and he had an endless amount of Mountain Dew bottles and cans just sprawled across it. And I'm telling him, hey, look, like you've got German roaches. It's going to be bad unless you clean up. And they're like, well, we did. I'm like, okay, look at here, look here. I gave them a list of things to do. And I went back again 2 weeks later, and they're like, hey, I think you're just spraying water. I was like, no. I pulled a couch out. I was like, remember when I told you that you had a yogurt and a chicken wing back here and said you needed to clean that up before I could do anything else?
Still there.
It's still there. And they're like, oh, huh. You just can't win. You can't win those fights. And it sucks being a technician too, because that's part of the reason it's part of the reason I started my own company for a while, because I couldn't tell them no, because it wasn't my account. It was the company's account. And, it's capitalism. They don't give a shit. Deal with it, dude. Yep. They're still paying the bill. But anyways, bug career and stories aside, you are a member of a band and you guys are starting a podcast. Tell us about Blotter, man.
Yeah, man. We're from Newport, North Carolina. We've been playing together, over 15 years. Been going for a while. We just put out a new album. We're working on a new one. Man, we're going to start a podcast too. Getting some ideas rolling, what we wanted to do, which direction we want to go,
Do you have a name for it yet? Do you have a name and an anticipated release date?
For the album or the podcast?
We'll go podcast first and we'll go album, because I know the album just dropped. You can tell us about that in just a second.
Yeah, I was I was checking some of that out on Spotify, by the way.
Oh, cool. What you think?
I like it. I like your sound, especially because it kind of reminds me of like that phase in between hair metal and grunge with bands like Urge Overkill and stuff. Not saying, I know that because I'm a musician myself, and of course I don't want to typecast anybody, but the sound that y'all have kind of reminded me of that. And I love Urge Overkill, and so I liked it a lot. Y'all have like some really catchy songs. I like your hooks.
Cool. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's always been hard for me to exactly say what we sound like, because it just don't sound like everything else. I mean, we're not metal, we are rock, but we're not like, there's so many different subgenres. It's so fucking hard to, stick it in one place or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A casual rock fan could pick up a Blotter album and enjoy it.
Yeah, most definitely.
So you know what I mean? And so you have that going for you. You also have somebody who, a Slayer fan, you know what I mean? Old school, whatever. They pick it up and enjoy that as well. So it really is fun listening to your music. Now, Dan and John, for that matter, have a better ear for it than I do. I've my music interest stopped at reggae, and I very rarely venture out. But I do every once in a while. I don't know if you look at the stats on your show or on your like Spotify or YouTube, but you get that random viewer in the 35 range. That's me. So I've enjoyed that. I enjoy listening every once in a while.
Hey, man,
we've known each other for a number of years now. Of course, I haven't been in constant contact or anything like that, but we did spend a lot of time together working at a Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh yeah, old B-Dubs.
Old B-Dubs, man. That was a fun time in my life. I really enjoyed that.
Is that B-Dub still even there anymore?
I'd say I did too. Yeah, I think the owner sold it to someone else.
Yeah, they sold it to a corporate entity, like out of Texas.
Yeah,
so I imagine it ruined everything. But man, we had there were some really funny moments that happened there. I know there was a coworker of ours who woke up drunk, called in, told him like, "Hey, dude, I'm drunk. I can't come in. Like, I'm still hungover." And they're like, "Nah, dude, you have to come in or you're fired." And his idea is like, okay, well, I know that I function better with a hangover when I'm drinking. And so he came in with like a 6-pack and was just like hiding beer cans all around. And they got mad at him when they found him drinking. He's like, I told you what was going on.
I just remember going there.
Dude, he was sticking beers in like the tub of lard, freezer.
He was like Easter egg beers, dude. I found him. I think like 2 weeks after he got fired. I found one.
Yeah.
Well, this makes my day better. No, it's fun stuff, man.
I think I only ever went there once, and of course, like something with John, like not getting. He wanted ranch dressing, and he couldn't get it, and gave him blue cheese, and he started just dumping it on the floor everywhere or something like that. You can't take him anywhere, man.
Hey,
I swear.
We were just talking about how John's like, well, everyone wants me to be an asshole, and then I'm an asshole, and no one wants me to be an asshole anymore. Like, nah, dude, I don't think anyone asked you to dump blue cheese anywhere.
Dude, one time, like he was trying to take, like Wells Fargo messed up his banking or something like that, and he was trying to get money out, and they wouldn't let him have it, so he tried to stuff an entire foot-long sandwich into the deposit thing at the bank. It's like, you're on camera, right? He's just like, fuck it, who cares?
It's not the strangest thing that someone's been picked up for. It's also very low on the bank robbery or bank vandalism scale. So,
yeah.
Oh man,
I'm impressed with y'all as a band because you were able to find a drummer, dude. I could never find a drummer down there that I could work with.
Yeah, well, we moved away from our old drummer, and on this past album, Timmy, which is my cousin, he's also a guitar player. He writes a lot of the songs. He actually played drums on the new album.
Gotcha.
With the exception of one song, and that's our boy Roger. Shout out Roger.
I've gotten even to the point where like I went to Five Below and I bought one of those tiny drum sets, and I've just been teaching myself like, fuck it, I'll do it myself.
Yeah, I've done the same thing.
It seems like drums is a perpetual problem for people.
Well, Richard, I remember that one time you showed me, like, you had that drummer come over to our house, and he actually was pretty good. And then he was like, well, I'm getting deployed tomorrow. And then I never saw that dude again.
Oh, man.
Dude, I don't know who the fuck you're talking about, man.
Not the drummer that we fired on the porch. That was another time. That one was funny.
Dude, no idea what you're talking about, man. Unfortunately, a lot of that is, just flushed in the brain somewhere. If you showed me a picture of that person, I bet you I could probably tell you a story or two about him.
Dude, that was like 12 years ago. I have
no idea.
I just remember stories.
Yeah, spent a lot of time drinking back in the day, drinking and partaking in extracurricular activities. So yeah, no, we were talking about actually last time I was down there and I spoke to a mutual friend of ours. She told me that it was the first time she'd ever seen me sober because I mean I left Newport and I never went back. I think it was like 10 years before I went back.
Okay.
I was a completely different person. You know, I'm a family man. I've been working on education. You know, started a whole new life with people who don't know me.
I like Newport more than I like Havelock, to be honest with you.
Oh, for
like
sure.
I hate Havelock, but I Newport has some charm to me. Like when I lived out there, I kind of liked it.
Depends where you're at, I reckon.
Yeah, if it depends on where you're at, who you're around, and you know, for me, it you know, of course, this is we're looking at like I was incapable of being in that town and making good decisions.
Oh, I never
just-
made good
That's
decisions.
understandable.
Wasn't something I was able to do, and it was only after I left that I was able to be like, okay, now I can do something different. Because it was just way too easy for me to go to that exact same gas station that I went to every day, bought cigarettes and beer. Like it's right there. I do it. It's like a habit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you know, I think a lot of people kind of run into that in their small town. So I can't. You know, it's not like I'm blaming it exclusively on Carteret County, but you know, I imagine I could fall
There's
into the
worse
same
places
problems
to
here.
be.
I'm sorry.
I said there's worse places to be.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like South Carolina, like we were talking about last week.
South Carolina. Those little jerks. John's not here to talk about that. Do you want to save that for John?
Yeah, no, I just had to throw that in there.
Yeah. Well, I got my top 5 right here.
Oh shit, we were doing. I didn't make a top 5. I can make a top 5 just out of nowhere. I got them in here all the time.
We'll work our way back to that. So
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
My top 5 reasons to hate South Carolina. Number 1, their barbecue is hands down the worst in the nation, if not the world. I don't know how anyone can deal with that disgusting mustard bullshit and then keep on making it. Number 2, of all the directional states in the United States, the drop-off in quality of life between North Carolina and South Carolina is the worst. I can listen to an argument about West Virginia and Virginia, but at least the good people of West Virginia understand their reputation and agree with it. South Carolina foolishly lies to themselves. So, number 3, the state consistently ranks in the bottom 5 worst states to live. And recently they moved up 2 spots from number 6 and are now tied with number 4 at Alabama. And they have an entire ocean on their coast. Do you know how hard it is to be one of the worst states to live in and have an ocean?
Right.
Like Idaho exists. You know, like there's a lot working against them. Now I don't remember where I got this, but it's a quote from someone. The state has the 5th highest rate of occupational deaths, and it finishes in the top 10 for frequent physical and mental distress. So I know North Carolina has trouble with workers' rights, but at least we are able to attract industries to our state and take care of our infrastructure. I can't say that word for some reason. South Carolina has the same worker protection issues, but they can't get decent jobs because there aren't any, and their road sucks, which means their car maintenance bills are higher. And then number 5 reason to hate South Carolina, the University of South Carolina Gamecocks. Not only are they the worst USC in the country, but their mascot is stupid. And they play this stupid rooster crowing throughout their game. It's incredibly annoying.
Do you know
how
they
like the
try
Panthers have like a rawr? It's like they have a and it's just fucking it's miserable.
Wow.
Do you know for some reason they try to claim that they're the first Carolina college, even though like University of North Carolina was like the first public school in the United States. They still try to say that, even though their school was made 100 years after UNC. That's how stupid
they
that.
can't read or count, Dan. It's not their fault.
Well,
Not your fault at all.
how am I supposed to count these large numbers? My fingers and toes are webbed together.
Well, given how many accidents they have on the job, they typically only have 7 fingers to count anyway. So, that's my top 5 reasons to hate South Carolina. Dan, you could chime in at any point with those. Now, some of the funnier conspiracy theories that I found, music-wise, were Jimi Hendrix faked his own death so he could become Morgan Freeman.
I've seen that one. That's a good one.
Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and Jim Morrison were killed by Nixon's CIA to help stop the counterculture movement.
I kind of believe that one a little bit.
That one's believe on
that one.
Dude, there was a lot of CIA shenanigans going on in the 60s.
I will say they were doing a lot of drugs. And so it is both very easy to kill somebody who is doing a lot of drugs and very easy to kill yourself when you're doing a lot of drugs. So
a thing I learned about Jim Morrison, or it could be complete bullshit. I don't know. It sounded good though. He didn't do a lot of acid stuff. Everyone thinks he did. He just drank a lot. Like he just wake up with a bottle of whiskey and start drinking.
Well,
that's unbelievable.
Wasn't he drunk one time and he came on to Janis Joplin and she hit him with a liquor bottle and nearly
hit him
killed
with a Southern Comfort bottle because that was her thing. She got sponsored by Southern Comfort. She always had a bottle of Southern Comfort.
It's a hell of a promotional deal.
But yeah, he tried to come on to her and she was not having it, and it bothered him that she turned him down, and he was like trying to force himself because that's kind of how he was. No one ever turned Jim Morrison down.
Yeah,
I saw something earlier about how he faked his death too. Like there's like one side of it believe he faked his death, and then another side the CIA thing that you were talking about. There's a few of those too.
Who's got a terrible Jim Morrison tattoo on their arm. She got it when we were like 18, and she has to live with that the rest of her life.
I guess it's better than having a Van Morrison tattoo.
Oh, definitely. And then the last funny one that I read, I don't think this is funny because at least 50% of this is totally believable, but Garth Brooks and Gene Simmons are serial killers.
Yes. Tom Segura has been talking about that.
You got to elaborate on that one. I want to know more.
Okay, so Garth Brooks, one of the most rich and powerful musicians to ever live, if not the richest and most powerful musician that's ever lived, at least inside of the country music realm. There are detailed maps that overlay deaths that coincide with his tour dates. And it's one of those things where it's like correlation isn't causation, because people get murdered all the time and Garth Brooks is constantly touring. But considering that Garth Brooks has been a rich and powerful person his entire life, since it's like early 20s, it's not unfathomable to think that once you become that rich and powerful, you just start hunting people. Same thing with Gene Simmons. Gene Simmons being, Kiss, the Knights in Satan's Armor. I think it's less likely that he's a serial killer than it is that Garth Brooks is. But there is Tom Segura and his motley crew of weird fangirls have been stalking Garth Brooks for the last 6-7 years. Because he's convinced that Garth Brooks doesn't know how to be a normal person, and he is crazy. And
I do believe that.
If you watch videos of him trying to act normal because he doesn't know how to act normal, because he can't act normal because he's Garth Brooks, and everywhere he goes, he's just treated like Garth Brooks.
He had that fake character that one time that sung for like a metal band.
Yeah, Chris Gaines.
Chris Gaines, that's his name. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, you don't remember whenever he had the split hair and the soul patch, and he went on Saturday Night Live?
No,
that was him.
I don't remember that at all.
It was supposed to be like a character or something, but he went full in and like made a whole album and personality and shit. Apparently, did pretty good too.
Yeah, and it was completely different. He did what Ween did.
It wasn't country.
Actually, correction, he did the opposite of what Ween did. See, Ween was a rock band and made a country album, and he was a country artist that made a rock album.
Yeah.
Well,
hey, fun fact. they're actually friends. Him and Gene Simmons.
Oh shit.
That adds to the
Yeah,
plot.
he did.
Maybe they're out sport
He
hunting.
played I believe he played. I've seen a video of it. He played Hard Luck Woman with Kiss live. There's a video. I see. I don't know if it was Saturday Night Live, but it was one of those live shows.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. It's really good. He's actually a big Kiss fan, so they might be in on it. You never know. They're like a serial killer duo.
Could be.
That's entirely possible, especially in the music industry.
Well,
Yeah.
because they got
Weird
that
shit
whole
goes on there.
they got
And
that
they have
whole
more
occult
money than
thing.
God. So shit.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking earlier, like talking about how Lady Gaga was working with this person that named Lena Morgana, and then that girl was like exercising, and then jumped to her death off of a building, and then Lady Gaga started like made a video immediately after that where she goes flying off of a building, and then like she like started like Lady Gaga was doing something different, and then she started acting like that woman. And then I guess in some of her songs, she has like occult symbolism, and so, like some of her lyrics like kind of hint towards stealing that girl's soul and identity. Like there's some weird shit that gets into that. Like I mean, I was always a big Pearl Jam fan, and a lot of their like album covers and whatnot, like they'll have like that Illuminati seeing eye logo and things like that in it, and it's like I don't necessarily believe that's what they're trying to do, but it's like, did you have to do that? Did you have to put
one
that
of
stuff
them,
in there?
they had like a goat chewing on a fence.
Yeah, on the
I think
Versus
it's called
album.
Versus,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, they're weird anyway. I mean, that
Yeah.
first album, they're all high fiving each other. It's pretty weird.
Yeah, I can't listen to 10. Like that, I just got
It's a
burned
good
out
album.
too much.
I like it.
I got burnt out on it.
Oh yeah, I feel you. You can't listen to it all
What was the main single off that album? Was that
the time.
Jeremy?
Even Flow,
okay.
Jeremy, and Black.
Alive.
They had a few.
That
Alive.
was
Yeah,
back when they made music to put on CDs versus one hit wonders. Yeah, that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I listened. I've heard that song. I've heard those songs entirely too many times. So, what was it? So talking about other bands that have switched, like gone undercover and made different albums. Weezer did that. I can't remember. It was something like Pink Dumpster or some strange
Pinkerton.
name. But they went Pinkerton. There you go. They went on a hiatus for a couple years, and they were secretly touring as that, and they hit clubs and rejuvenated themselves. But I think an interesting conspiracy that I came across was that Kurt Cobain didn't kill himself; he just became River Cuomo from Weezer.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun.
I'm calling bullshit on that one.
Oh, for sure. But somebody took their time and lined up the dates and stuff.
I have a theory about
Kurt
Cobain.
Oh, my bad.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
I was going to say, I know there's a theory that Kurt Cobain didn't kill himself and that Courtney Love had him murdered. And then there's a subplot where she actually was in on it with Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
No, Dave Grohl
they
is
conspired
definitely the
to have
person
him
killed. I don't think Courtney Love had anything to do with it. I think that it was 100% Dave Grohl. I love Dave Grohl. I love the Foo Fighters. But think about who benefited the most from Kurt Cobain dying.
I got an even crazier, like my own. I got my own theory on this.
It's all the royalties, man. I don't know. She made more money longer. Well, I don't know. Dave's pretty rich.
So I think
Go ahead.
I think that so like if you looked into any of this, apparently the police went to his house and went into his house while he was home, locked up in that above the garage with the shotgun. I think what actually happened is I think the cops stumbled in on him because he was afraid that people were going to come into his house, and he was hiding out because he had people trying to break into his house like crazy fans. I think the police went to do a welfare check on him, went in, he pulled the shotgun out, they shot and killed him, and to stage it to make it look like a suicide, they went ahead and shot him with the shotgun, and that's why they had that weird stuff where it was flipped around. Like they killed him and they're like, oh shit, well, let's shoot him with the shotgun so that way it looks like a suicide since that's his gun. and it's got his fingerprints on it, and they planted it on him. And that's why they can't find out whether he was killed or not, is because they did it. And it's a proven fact
I believe
that
they said. I'm sorry. I believe they said they like shot him up with heroin because they said it was too much heroin in his bloodstream. Like he shouldn't have been able to move.
I can understand someone thinking that, but having lived through the opioid crisis, I know that people are capable of taking on a lot of heroin.
Oh yeah,
especially when they build up a tolerance and they have an unlimited cash supply.
And
that's what that's just what the people would say. That was what they were saying.
The people say lots of weird shit.
My other theory on that, if it wasn't the cops that shot him, then maybe it was some kind of slapstick thing where he like freaked out when they knocked on the door and he juggled the gun and accidentally shot himself. Like a Jerry Lewis like physical comedy kind of thing. Like some Benny Hill music's playing in the background and kaboom, his head. I mean, I could see that happening too.
That's how it went down. That's just
bad. Weirder thing. People have died in weirder ways.
That's true.
Oh yeah.
Now I don't know if there's any truth to 1,000 Ways to Die, that show on Spike for a while. But just watching those people die different ways, accidentally juggling a shotgun and shooting yourself with it, is not that far fetched.
That's true.
Well, so I did do a little bit of research and a quick write-up on something about a little piece I call Our Government, the Eternal Bastards and Their Attack on Society Through Music, Drugs, and Private Prisons. So now there is a claim that's been made was made in an anonymous letter that says that, I'm sorry, I'm not reading my words right, that claims that an unnamed top music industry executive promoted gangster rap to fill private prisons. And it was published across hundreds of blogs, websites, and was, just reported all over the place. Now, it's hard for me to say whether or not the letter was real, but it did lead me down a little bit of a rabbit hole, and I strongly believe that it is true and that our government, at a minimum, created the conditions for it to happen, if not outright influenced the decision makers.
I could see that.
So this is what we do know is that Reagan and Bush Sr., HW, used the CIA to fund the Contra operations by smuggling drugs into the United States. And one of those benefactors is Freeway Rick Ross, who's one of my favorite side bosses in history. He's known as the Johnny Appleseed of crack. Are you guys familiar with him?
Yes,
I've never heard this. Please explain. I want to hear more.
You've heard of Rick Ross, the rapper, right? Well, Rick Ross, the rapper, he stole his name from Rick Ross, the Johnny Appleseed,
the drug dealer.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Didn't he almost kill him?
I thought that was actually his name, though. That's not his name.
Not the rapper.
No, that's a stage name.
The rapper, that's not his real name.
No, see, he had to make that identity. He had to make that identity because he was a police. He was a jail. Worked at the Department of Corrections
or something.
And so that way he would be taken serious in the rap. Yeah, so they would be taken serious. He came up with a fake stage name, which a lot of people come up with stage names.
Yeah, there's lots of stage names that are out there. Oh, it looks like he froze. Dude, you look crazy right now, Jim. I don't know if you could hear me or not, but your frozen face is amazing.
But yeah, they've proven too that the crack epidemic was funded by the police and the CIA, and I could see that too.
I'm back.
You're back.
Can you hear us?
Okay, sweet.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. My bad.
So, now his claim is that the drugs that he received came from a dealer with ties to the Iran-Contra operation. Now, this was verified by the Department of Justice, who released a statement that said a portion of the sales did benefit the Contra operation, but they downplayed his role in the matter. Now, one of the things about Rick Ross, and this isn't the main story of it all, that really kind of stuck out to me was he was like, they want you to believe that a couple of coke dealers in the hood made crack. I don't know anybody who's messing around with chemicals well enough to make crack. Somebody made that and gave it to us. And that's, it made me think, because this is a guy who it's estimated in some court documents that he sold over $1 billion worth of crack cocaine over the course of a small period of time. The guy was definitely connected. Now, he wasn't exactly a good dude. I mean, after all, and some of this is, after an extended stay in prison, he was kind of hard up for money. So when he's making these rounds, it's kind of said, well, is he being truthful, or is he selling the story up a little bit to make some money out of it? But I do know from experience that just because you have kind of a checkered background, it doesn't mean you're a lying bastard.
Right.
Now, I can say that Rick Ross did spend a tremendous amount of time after he got out of prison working as an advocate for young men in his community, trying to prevent them from falling into the same pitfalls that he did. And I think before we kind of move on, I think it's important to say that, he definitely played a role in it, both directly and indirectly killing people. But I do think that he was kind of a middle of the totem pole guy, and that he was used as an easy scapegoat to take away attention from government actions.
Well,
that's always the thing, right?
Sorry, go ahead. What was that?
Well, that's always how it is. It's always something crazy going on that keeps you from not paying attention to the politics.
The power, people in power don't get in trouble. That's just not the way it works.
Nah.
There's somebody else somewhere.
With what you were talking about too, like about how like the record label or the record industry was used to help imprison like African American youths. You remember rap early on was like it was protesting a lot of what was going on, like with Grandmaster Flash, Melly Mel, even up into Public Enemy. Like it was very smart and thought out. And then the next thing you know, the focus was on gangster rap and committing felonies and doing drugs and being violent. It kind of does make you wonder.
Well, that's where George Bush comes into play here. This is H.W. Bush. I'm a little bit of background about that. So before I start with that, a tremendous amount of blame needs to go towards Reagan and Nixon. But for right now, we're going to stick with Bush Sr. because of his role as the director of CIA, vice president, and president.
Well, you can connect Strom Thurmond from the shit state of South Carolina and Joe Biden to this too, because they're the ones that made the crime bills that made crack the mandatory minimums. Like South they Carolina. All worked. Well, I mean, you could throw Delaware into that shit show too, since you got Biden from there.
I think my favorite Biden fact is his first run for president was before I was born.
When he lied and made about that 80s. Speech.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude, he stole. Dude, that speech was so great. I listened to it, man. I was like, man, I'm moved, dude. I'm ready to go vote right now. And it wasn't him. It was some Irish dude that he just plagiarized.
Yeah, some British guy.
Oh man, yeah, dude. Any politician that's been in office that long has blood on their hands and probably the front and the back and in their fingernails. Like it's just American politics, dude. We're bastards, and that happens, Mm-hmm. But yeah, because there's that great scene where he's talking about him and I guess so Hillary Clinton was first lady at the time, right? And there are some like really awful clips of them talking about like how crack babies are coming out and they're super predators, and the whole idea of crack babies is just it's non-existent. It was a sample that was taken from 3 children, and the author of the paper withdrew it within 2 weeks of publishing it. But that side of the story wasn't taken in. It was crack babies, super predators. And that got propagated. And now, I mean, South Park had a crack baby episode? I mean, it's persistent.
Crack baby basketball association.
God, I love South Park.
Yeah.
That's the best.
They do some pretty
Absolutely.
terrible things.
I wouldn't say so.
What was that?
I wouldn't say they do anything bad. At the end of like every episode, as terrible as it like seems like it could be, there's always like a good point to it. Like even the AIDS was funny episode brought up a good point. Like
Oh,
when is it right for us to be able to start making jokes? You know?
there are two episodes.
Well, what I
that
think
come
is
to
cool
mind.
about South Park. My bad. Go ahead, man.
No,
Oh,
no,
you're
go
good,
ahead.
dude. Go ahead, Jimbo. You're the guest, man.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say I think the cool thing about South Park is they always do both sides of whatever the episode's about. They always show both sides and show how
Mhm.
ridiculous both sides are.
They
Yep.
don't care. They really
No
don't.
matter what it is.
They're normal people who are very funny, who have used their humor to cut out an existence in this world, and it's influenced a lot of people. So, hats off to Matt and Trey.
Yeah,
When
man.
I think of South Park as awful, I think of the guilt that I feel when I'm laughing at how fucking awful they are. Because like the episode with where Cartman had a problem with Scott, whatever, and
Scott
he ended
Tinnerman.
up, yeah, Scott Tinnerman, and he ended
Oh
up
man,
feeding him his
he
parents.
kills his parents.
Like it was
He cooks them
the
in the
whole
chili.
plot was just I laughed hysterical. And then there was I don't even remember what the other episode was. The Commanders, where they were talking
Okay.
about how terrible the Redskins were. I loved that episode. I laughed way too hard. But I mean, you're right. They made good philosophical points through gross and gratuitous humor, and I laughed the entire time.
I'll tell you, my favorite episodes are the election episodes.
Oh, dude, Garrison as Trump was one of the greatest things
that
I've
was
ever
great.
seen.
You remember the first Obama one, Obama and McCain?
Yeah. Change is
It was
coming,
like
man.
double.
Change.
Yeah,
Randy.
change.
That was when I really got an appreciation for Randy on that.
Yeah, Randy's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they really started cutting him out as a standalone character in that, and his evolution from Bat Dad, fighting Bat Dad to Integrity Farms it's been miraculous to watch. And I don't watch it very often. I usually like binge watch it, and then I'll take a year-long break, and then I'll binge watch whatever's there, and then I'll catch back up again. So I'm probably missing a few episodes, but it's been.
Did you see the COVID one?
I did not see the COVID one.
Oh, dude, the COVID ones were great. Like when the vaccine came out, and they had like everyone was like lined up outside the drugstore trying to get their vaccine, and they let all the old people get it first. So like all the old people were like, "Oh yeah, fuck you!" They're like riding by everyone in line. They're like doing donuts in the parking lot, drinking beer. Shit, it's so funny.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go back and watch that. I'm gonna have to find these. Those were specials, right? Like those weren't episodes. They were like
I think that one was like an hour long.
Okay. Yeah. I remember I came across an article where it was talking about how there was a dispute over who had the rights to South Park, and they were selling 1 hour episodes for the price of one season to one company. And I didn't actually get the chance to watch it. I think it might have been HBO. I'm not too sure. It's been a while, but yeah, they made. I'm glad they were able to make extra money off that. Getting back to George Bush.
Yeah.
So George Bush's dad was Prescott Bush. He was a wealthy businessman and former senator in the great state of Connecticut, or as I like to call it, the South Carolina of New England. Now, before you ask, the Bush bastards supported the no Nazis. In a 2004 article from The Guardian published about Prescott Bush and reference to his business, it says, even after America had entered the war and when there was already significant information about the Nazis' plans and policies, he worked for and profited from the companies closely involved with a German business that influenced Hitler's rise to power. It has also been suggested that the money he made from those dealings helped to establish the Bush family fortune and set up his political dynasty. Now, I do think it's important to say that some of the assets from Prescott Bush's company were seized by the government in 1942 under the Trading with the Enemy Act. Unfortunately for the rest of us, this is one of the driving factors that put that fucker into politics, creating one of the worst political families in history.
Well, you didn't mention the business plot either.
Enlighten me, Dan.
So Prescott Bush was trying to, like, he believed in fascism, and he liked what Germany was doing because it would fight against socialism. And they were afraid that socialism was going to spread here and people were going to demand workers' rights and things like that. So he was going to have like get together, like, so with before World War II started, World War I soldiers were protesting and building shanty towns in Washington to get their get the money that they were their pennant or whatever it is. What's the word? Whenever you retire, I'm never going to get to retire. So
Pension.
Yeah, no, we.
I'm never going to get one, so I don't know what it's called. But anyways,
royally boned veterans after World War I.
So Smedley Butler was leading them, the charge on that, and they built those little shanty towns, and they actually sent Dwight Eisenhower in there to set those towns on fire, and it killed a bunch of them. Well, Prescott Bush tried to use Smedley Butler, being mad at the time, to have a coup to overthrow Washington and Franklin Delano Roosevelt's government so they could put in a fascist government. And it was like, I think he was involved. I want to say it was Charles Lindbergh and Henry Ford had some ties to it too. They were all anti-Semitic. And which Charles Lindbergh, if Charles Lindbergh was anti-Semitic, I'm kind of glad his baby got stolen, you know? Like, screw your baby. But
that's terrible, man.
But anyways, he's dead. It doesn't matter. The baby's probably dead too. But anyways,
allegedly.
So Smedley Butler, he testified in front of Congress about what was going on, and then we got into World War II, and from there, those companies, some of those companies were actually, like you said, they were helping both sides of the war, and after post-war, some of those companies got paid reparations for the damages we did to them during the war to stop them from making war machinery for the other side.
Well, you have to blame both sides. Unless the other side's Nazis, then you shouldn't blame both sides.
Like Henry Ford, he got paid reparations. I think it was equal up to $144 million. Don't quote me on that. I want to say that was the number, but it was a cracked article, so I'm not 100% sure. But he got paid reparations.
I ain't said shit. Falls right into line with what we're talking about.
So, like, Prescott Bush was like, I think he was going to try to make a run for the presidency, but after that business plot, he kind of had to go underground a little bit, and then he used his sons, which takes us up to what we're talking about now.
So let me interject for a second.
Go ahead.
So I thought all the Bushes were like oil money. Is that not where they got their money from?
So that's where H.W. Bush comes from. So
he's the one with the oil.
Yes. So Bush, H.W. used his family's wealth and power to get into an elite school. He also used that to break into the Texas oil industry, where he became air quotes a self-made millionaire.
I got you.
From there, he followed in his father's footsteps. He got into politics, did a brief stint as representative in Texas. From there, he became the head of the Republican Party, the head of the GOP. That's the not elected official, but like internal, like the Republican Party. And then for some god awful reason, someone looked at him and said, "Let's make him the head of the CIA." Now, there are some people out there that suggest he was gifted this position for his role in the JFK assassination. Which, knowing what I know about the Bushes, that's probably the most believable thing I've ever heard about that president's death. Absolutely nothing to back that. Someone wrote an entire piece about it. It was on a very suspicious website. I can't say that, but I am going to put it out there. It's probably George Bush's fault.
Well, with the CIA too.
I think it was the mob, man.
Well,
there's a lot of stuff that points towards the mob, and
I think it was I
The
think that
idea
it
that-
was.
Have y'all jumped down that rabbit hole yet?
Bush
What's
was in
that?
charge of
About how
getting
the Cubans connect to it?
Bush was in charge of establishing Cuban. It was anti Fidel Castro or anti Cuban.
Castro, yeah.
Yeah, it was anti Castro. Bush had a lot of connections to the Bay of Pigs, to the Cuban population. That's where that tie comes in. So Bush was the shadow guy, the smoking cigarette guy in the background, going, "Okay, here, here, here." That's the theory behind that.
I think that it was the Russians, the Cubans, the mob, the Bush, the CIA, all at the same time. I think everybody got together and they all shot him at the same time. That's why there was so many bullets flying over.
I think that's the one thing the Russians didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, because they were kind of like, "Oh shit, he's dead." They're gonna think we did it.
Yeah. Well, what it was is what's his name? Lee Harvey Oswald. Was that him?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the shoot. Yeah, okay. Well, he had tried to immigrate to Russia, and what they say is that they brought him into the not CIA. What's their what is their intelligence? KGB.
What are KGB? Yeah.
KGB.
Yeah. They said he was like a KGB agent, and that's why that's the connection between him and Russia. That's why
It's
they threw him in there.
convenient. Very
convenient. Yeah.
Very convenient that Jack Ruby also worked for George Bush.
Very
convenient. And he was a strip club owner.
Yeah, and he was in
the guy that shot Oswald.
Yeah, he was in utter turmoil at the president. Yeah, my president's been shot, so now I have to shoot this guy that's screaming that he's a patsy and that we're conspiring against him. Yeah, okay.
Recent events.
I think when he went to jail too, he died of cancer very quick too.
That's within a couple of months.
That's another thing too. The doctor, they think MK Ultra had something to do with that because the same doctor that was working with Lee Harvey Oswald,
that was the one. Yeah,
went to visit Jack Ruby in prison, and then shortly after that, Jack Ruby died. And then a lot of the witnesses and a lot of people that were on the Warren Commission started dying, and that doctor all had a connection to all of them. I forgot the doctor's name, but that was another thing too. And he was like one of the main guys with MK Ultra. And it's crazy. During that time, we had the movie The Manchurian Candidate come out, which is about people getting hypnotized and then they get triggered into shooting a president. And then this is what, we had that happen to him. We had
about it.
Yeah, we had it happen to Kennedy. Did you know that with Martin Luther King Jr., that the family believed that James Earl Ray had nothing to do with it, and they sued the CIA, and they won.
Yeah.
They won in court. There was a civil court.
They tried to keep him quiet. They were I guess Martin Luther King Jr. had like an affair or something, and
I'm actually going to get into that in just a second. Dan's gone. He'll come back eventually. Yeah, that was okay. So that kind of ties into where I'm going with this. Where am I at? Do I need to add him back in?
I know they tried to blackmail him, so quit.
Yeah, and that blackmailing him, that came up not that long ago in a conversation I had with an older person. I'll escape their name, but they are in their 60s, and they're brought up. I don't remember how I got brought up, but they with passion jumped into, well, MLK, he was out cheating on his wife. He was sleeping with this. He was doing this. I'm like, okay. Lots of people cheat on their wives. That doesn't make him, you know what I mean? That doesn't make his cause unjust. But
every Democrat ever cheats on their wives. That's just what we do.
Dude,
I'm not a Democrat. I'm a libertarian.
On their, it's like you can't it's the preacher sleeping with somebody in the congregation. Shocker, absolute shocker, right? But one of those things. But so
back to the CIA. I did want to say one thing though, with the CIA, him being an oil tycoon and being in charge of the CIA. I could see that because when you start looking at things that are going on geopolitically, and dealing with resources and things like that and oil. Like even with what we got going on in Ukraine right now, it's like because they found these big heavy pockets of natural gas and oil, and then that's got CIA written all over it. So like I could see why Bush would get appointed into that position.
Yeah, I don't think there's a rational argument behind it beyond the fact that he was a rich person with the right ties. Because it's not like he didn't have a military background. You know what I mean? He got a director position. That it's because his dad was cool with Nazis, rich. Yeah, absolutely. Now, is there a strategy behind like, okay, well, he knows how the oil industry works. Cool. Or is it, yeah, I can't wrap my head around it other than just nepotism.
Well, do you believe that the military like is really like out there like pushing for freedom anymore, or do you think it's really to like further the interest of a bunch of corporations?
It's been that way for a very long time.
Yeah.
I think that there have been,
Hmm.
I don't think we've had a legitimate war since World War II. World War One, even World War One is questionable. We look
Yeah.
at because we had like the Spanish War, whatever the fuck it was before that, and then leading into World War One. I understand the ties that
1898,
get
I
into
believe,
it. I'm sorry.
was the Spanish. 1898, I believe, was the Spanish-American War.
Hmm.
No, there's another smaller, smaller, lesser known war that was brought on prior to World War One. That may be the right timeline. I don't. It's been
Are you
such a
talking about
long
the?
time since I looked
Are you
at
talking
it.
about the Filipino insurrection war or whatever it was?
I'm just gonna Google it real quick.
I
I
believe
do
that's what
know.
you're talking about because that was how we got the Philippines and all that, and like Cuba and all that,
Yeah. Well,
and Puerto
well,
Rico.
for
That's how we got Puerto Rico too.
the Philippines, they had an insurrection after we took them over for their independence, and then we quashed that real quick. That was a
Ah,
little that was a little skirmish after that. There is another war that Richard. I know what you're talking about. There was another war. You had the Russian Revolution, and there was another one around that time that happened, and then it led into World War One.
Yeah, because it was early 1900s.
Yeah,
I don't remember
I
my
thought the
history well
revolution was
enough to
after
know.
that.
But anyways, that's
Am I
we're kind of
wrong?
kind of getting
we yeah
lost on the
we're
point there, going
yeah
off on a
Okay.
weird tangent. But anyways,
back to
so
Bush.
what we do know is Bush would eventually become the vice president of Reagan, and together the two would become some of the best drug dealers in the world. They would also usher in the privatization of our prisons, which is what's fueling the America's prison industrial complex, something that the
Yep.
Bush family would greatly profit from. Now, it's also no secret that Reagan and Bush both used crime and drugs as major political points to help them stay in power. But they were also the ones that were pumping drugs into the country and then enacting the laws that were overtly attacking people who were of lower income and minorities. Those same crimes were then used to force people, or I'm sorry, those same laws were then used to force people into the privatized prisons that they helped set up. Now, when you take this information along with the CIA and FBI's long sustained history of infiltrating and disrupting groups that they have deemed subversive to American culture, the CIA's Operation Chaos, and the FBI's Central Pro, which is just um, a play on the word counterintelligence. I mean, they're a big part of American history. This includes spying on and intimidating Martin Luther King. Their work, as I mentioned, is still repeated by old timers and just people who are just all around in general racist, who are like, oh well, he's a bad guy. Can't respect his work. Now they also had a role in the Black Panthers. So, and this is a Wikipedia breakdown, so take it for what it's worth. But the FBI identified Freddie Hampton as a radical threat. He was a leader of the Black Panthers. It tried to subvert his actions in Chicago by sowing disinformation among Black progressive groups and placing a counterintelligence operative in the local Panthers organization. In December of 69, Hampton was drugged. He was shot and killed in his bed during a pre-dawn raid at his Chicago apartment by a tactical unit of the Cook County State Attorney's Office, who received aid from the Chicago Police Department, and the FBI led the attack. In total, law enforcement sprayed more than 100 gunshots through the apartment, and the occupants fired only once. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious that there were some racist elements in the government, within the organizations that weren't exactly a fan of Black people wanting the right to vote, because this is also around the same time as we have the civil rights movement. And this is all happening under Bush's watch.
The CIA and the FBI also started watching and targeting Public Enemy, which I mentioned earlier, which, Public Enemy did have some songs that were like kind of weird, like "Do 'Em in the Butt" and stuff like that, but they actually had some politically motivated songs.
Yeah, it's named Public Enemy, right?
Yeah, and they were actually getting watched by the FBI and the CIA because they were looked at as, they were like trying to break out some of these secrets about what the government was doing to the Black communities. And that, with what you were going to talk about with how rap just changed all of a sudden, I could absolutely see that. And especially since a lot of those people that ran the big record labels were like old white guys from the old fashioned days, the like cigar chomping, types of dudes. They're the ones who were giving these rappers the scene. And so with what you're talking about, how like they could be trying to inspire the youth to commit felonious acts and things like that because it's cool, and get them into the private industry complex. Yeah, private industry complex. I could absolutely see that.
The Public Enemy was that they were Fight the Power, right?
Yep.
That was their song. Okay. I had to think about that. It's been a while since I've listened to that. Now, I think it's important to note, too, that the music industry has also in the past been manipulated by the CIA. The organization has held music festivals to raise money for their causes without informing the artists or the patrons. They've also were known to fund artists and musicians. The contemporary art movement is given a lot of credits given to the CIA for that.
That's how Bohemian Grove got started.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I came across. I kind of have it as I'm kind of rushed on this one, trying to get it done. So there was a lot of details that are left out. Feel free to jump in.
Oh, they go in there and worship the owl god.
Yeah,
the owl god.
Yeah, they worship an owl god. You got to hear Alex Jones talk about that one. That's just wild.
Who?
Alex Jones.
Oh, I try to avoid that at all costs.
Well, no, he has some good things. Like, he does have some things that he covered that were legit. Like when he broke into Bohemian Grove.
Reporter.
He
was a real reporter.
I know that I don't want anything Alex Jones related search history on my computer, and I know that he, the whole Sandy Hook thing. I missed the rise and fall. I missed the rise of Alex Jones, but I watched the fall happen, and I don't want it's nuclear waste to me, man.
Listen here, I'm kind of retarded.
Yeah, it's just not something I want to be a part of, dude.
He's always talking about the one thing that turns the frog gay.
Yeah.
So I know frogs are gay and chemtrails, and
clean coal.
It's just
clean coal.
Yeah, you heard her talk about clean coal.
Clean coal. It's the way of the future. Well, that's Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's Trump. Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Well, so I do know that Rush Limbaugh was paid by the Heritage Foundation to spread lies. And some of those lies made their way into the mainstream conspiracy logic. And from them, Rush, Jones proliferates. And from him, I'm just going to call this Richard's Law. Once it leaves Jones's mouth, it exponentially increases in crazy bullshit by the week. Because someone's going to take that and try to be more outrageous. And so by the time it gets to me, it's well, the frogs are gay and their population is dwindling. So, and that's why we're using it to get into schools. Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Crazy people. They make the world go round. But yeah, the CIA also they funded some artists to go around like during the Cold War, and like jazz musicians. There was some theories that punk rock came from the CIA too. But the idea is that this music,
punk rock from the CIA.
Yeah, I never heard
Yes.
that one.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one.
I don't have that one right in front of me. I've got the article in my saved history. I'll look that up pretty quick. But what I
That
do
seems
remember that
pretty anti-CIA to me.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what I was thinking. That's
so
kind of the point of punk.
here's the idea. The idea is that it promotes radical individualism, which is a core tenet of American society. And you take that information and you give it to like the Soviet Union. The idea starts coming around, kicking around in their head. Maybe I could be more artistic. Maybe I could get into this type of music. Maybe I should speak out against the government. They're using that information to push it to other countries to stop socialism, stop communism, and stuff like that.
Well, I was just learning before the show that rock music was banned by the KGB in the Soviet Union up until, because there's a conspiracy theory that the Scorpion song "When to Change" was by the CIA to kind of help end the Soviet Union.
No, I thought that was for because they're German. I thought that was to get rid of the wall.
Yeah, but also the thing about it is like in the 80s is when the Soviet Union finally allowed rock music, and the Scorpions, Cheap Trick, Ozzy Osbourne, and I think Alice Cooper were part of this concert in the Soviet Union to promote rock music because we were trying to show them Western culture. And that song,
Guns N' Roses?
No, it was "When to Change." Now the Scorpions bass player said
the song was Guns N' Roses not a part of that concert? It seems like I heard that they were the first ones to play in Russia. I could be wrong.
They might have been a part of it. They were like Guns N' Roses came around '86. I want to say that the concert was '84, but they could have been a part of that.
Okay. I wanted to say that they were the first. It was some big band like that. They were the first ones to play in Russia.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Actually, I don't know if it was. I almost said Alice in Chains. That was a little bit later on. I wonder something about you're talking about like the CIA being involved. I've wondered about like with the Illuminati and all of that gets tied into music. There's a theory that it's not necessarily like a bunch of devil worshiping groups that are a part of this, that actually has ties back to the mob, even back in the days when Frank Sinatra and I almost said Mickey Mantle, Dean Martin were the big people in the music industry, that the mob took over. And that's why a lot of these artists end up, dying in strange ways, is they either reach the point where the amount of money they're making touring alive isn't worth what they would make being dead. So they get offed because they make these big deals with them. And that's part of the deal, is that later on, when you're not worth it anymore, they're going to take you out. And that's something that I kind of find intriguing.
I've done a little bit of stuff on the mafia, and a lot of what I read was when it came to people like Frank Sinatra, any like entertainers like that, they would require them. They make them, if you want to call it a contract, they'd make them play at a certain club, and they could only play there, and they couldn't play anywhere else. And then if they went against that, then they might get off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I know that kind of stuff did happen.
That's like the 27 rule. Like a lot of those people die at 27. They think that is okay. Well, you're not going to get any more famous. We're going to kill you off. And you have weird acts. Like I think John talked about it one time. Like Prince, they killed Prince because they knew Prince was done making music. He had a vault big enough to make money forever.
Yeah. I mean, like, and he wasn't releasing the music. Jackson. Yeah.
He could say the same thing.
I don't know. I think it was just time for Michael Jackson to go. I don't think there was any conspiracy behind that. I think
Chris Cornell.
We're done.
Chris Cornell was the tough one. Chris Cornell was
have
a
you
tough
heard the
one
one
for me.
about Chris Cornell?
Yeah, that's
The
one of them that like makes me wonder about that. Like if
tell me.
it,
there's a conspiracy about because Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park, they committed suicide within a few months of each other, I want to say. And the conspiracy is that both of them together were in this project where they were uncovering a bunch of child trafficking and like sex scandals and shit.
Oh yeah,
They were uncovering a pedophile ring, and that it's
They
some
got
higher
Epstein?
up. They got Epstein.
Yeah, it's
Or the opposite, because the opposite of Epstein, or the inverse of Epstein, because they were trying to prevent it.
the inverse. Yeah, well,
You know.
suicided, I should say. I guess probably better.
Yeah, he got suicided. There you go.
Yeah, terrible joke. That's very. I'm gonna have to put a not safe for work on this one. So it was Cliff David of the band The Shadow. I'm sorry, Cliff Richard of the Shadows. That was the first Western rock and roll to perform after the Soviets fell.
oh shit.
So, what's up,
Hey.
John?
I know I'm late to the party.
That's cool, man. So I'll just give you a quick rundown of what we got going on right now. So the government is conspiring with the prison industrial complex through George Bush Sr., George H.W. Bush, to fund the gangster rap music so that they can increase their profits and stock private prisons.
Yeah, that sounds
Also,
about right.
the Bushes got their money from Nazis.
We were talking about the gay hip hop baby blood drinking rap Illuminati too.
It's been a roller coaster, John. Welcome
Dude,
back.
Did y'all cover like, because you know how like with rock music you got the 27 Club, but with rap music you got the 21 Club. Did y'all cover that?
No.
So there's a theory that rappers they sign a death clause, and and as we know, like most people in music industry are worth more dead than they are alive. But a lot of them, when they get to 21 years old, they either die because of gun violence or they die because of a drug overdose. And it's become they call it the 21 curse.
I got you. So do you think that do you think it's just happenstance, or do you think it, like you said, so that it's a pact? But like, I know that you're kind of talking about like XXX Tentacion and a couple of other ones that actually did get murked. They got murdered.
Juice WRLD was at the airport, and
now Tupac was 25, so he's not a part of this.
Absolutely.
They just arrested the guy that admitted to killing him on a movie.
I wanted to talk about that. Okay,
Like not that long ago.
He was bragging about it. He wrote a book about how he did it. He bragged about
it, dude.
On Sway's live TV show, or you know what I'm saying? Like he bragged about it on several occasions. He even said that Puff Daddy or P Diddy or whatever his name is this week was gonna pay him $1 million to do it, and then he never paid. So they're trying to put the cuffs on P Diddy now.
That's the man you should shoot.
Well, have you heard that P Diddy supposedly has ties to like Chomo behavior, and like supposedly he groomed Justin Bieber? I mean, allegedly. Oh, that's right. No. P Diddy groomed Usher, and then Usher groomed Justin Bieber. That's what it was.
Yeah, Usher was living on P Diddy's couch at 13 years old. His mom just gave him to him, pretty much.
There is.
Oh
know,
man.
Those music people, man. There's some real weird shit going on behind closed doors.
Well, dude, I'm a musician and I'm weird as hell.
Yeah, you're not a rich musician yet.
I think it's a requirement.
Yeah, that's something else I was going to bring up is like they try to talk about the occult and all of that. I mean, I haven't ruled out using the occult. The occult's never approached me. I thought I was a pretty decent musician. I guess I'm just not good enough to be in the club.
Gotta be influential, Dan.
I beat the 20. I beat the 27 club. I'm going to get started with the music industry at 37
You gotta get
eventually.
famous on TikTok.
Oh God,
It's funny.
the gangster rappers, and it's all about crime and stuff like that. Like I do kind of see what you're talking about, where the CIA could use that to build the prison industry complex, and it's they target. There's white people getting targeted with that too. Really, nowadays it almost seems like it's rich versus poor, and rap is kind of used as like a quick get up. Either you're going to make it or it's going to break you. And more often than not, I'd say it's like a 95% chance you're going to be broken by it. You're not going to not many make it to that top echelon. And like with what John said, they live to be like 21. A lot of those rappers are involved in gang activities and drug dealing and shit like that behind the scenes. What was it, like Gucci Mane or whatever? Wasn't he like involved in like a bunch of drug dealing and shit and killing?
So there are with in the context of gangster rap and in general, you have drug dealers who got rich, and then you have people who lied about being drug dealers to sell rap songs. And it's really hard to distinguish like who was who.
Well, I'll tell you who.
Ja Rule.
How you saying Ja Rule?
Yeah,
He had a deep voice.
he just took a bunch of ecstasy and got famous.
I'll tell you who didn't fake that stuff was 3-6 Mafia, man. Everything they did was legit.
Yeah, Wu-Tang Clan, 3-6. Sometimes you just gotta do that stuff, right?
That's right. Wu-Tang Clan were official Shaolin ninjas.
Oh yeah,
that's an indisputable fact. Everyone knows that. Now,
one thing I wanted to talk about was Kanye West. Did you guys talk about Kanye West?
No, we haven't got to him yet. Please enlighten us.
Is this the David Bowie thing, by any chance?
No. I mean, well, you know that he took his billionaire status to damn near zero in a matter of just a few short months, right? And during this time, he had a conversation.
Hold on one second.
For some reason went viral. Go ahead.
Can you enlighten me on what's up with Kanye? Because I really don't follow him, but I know
where he's going.
been doing something crazy.
So
yeah,
he went off the deep end and started posting some anti-Semitic stuff,
like a swastika and a Star of David flag, and then he told us he was running for president.
And so
he was talking about loving Hitler.
Yeah,
I hear you.
He went on Alex Jones with some Nazi dude, and he was wearing like there's like you watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So Charlie, when he dresses up a Green Man, that like spandex outfit that covers your face. He went on an Alex Jones show with some Nazi dude, and he started talking about how much he loved Hitler. And it was very awkward because here you have Alex Jones. We don't like Hitler. He was a bad man. And this guy's like, no, he did great things. It's like, what the fuck?
Alex Jones was like, hey, you kind of need to chill, man. But I know where John's going.
Jones saying that.
The thing is about this is he said that the Illuminati is real and that every one of these celebrities have to give a sacrifice. And he listed off Jay-Z and Beyonce. He listed off Michael Jordan, his dad got murdered. He listed off what was it? Bill Cosby, his son, and a few people. And then he was like, they killed my mom as my sacrifice. And he was like, but the thing is they can't control me. And he was like, if anything happens to me, then it's the Illuminati. Well, his fitness trainer went on and was like, I just got to make a phone call and they'll put you back on the drugs and put you back in zombie land. And he went back online and he was like, look, if something happens to me, then just know that it's real and something happened. Like, I'm not going to just disappear and I would never kill myself. Well, he went quiet, and this is in the height of all his controversy. He goes quiet for a few months. And Cat Williams was like, if you notice, there's a real Kanye and there's a fake Kanye. He was like, the real Kanye is 5'7", but this fake Kanye is over 6 foot tall. Well, the new pictures of him and his girlfriend is 5'7", and he's towering over her.
Mm-hmm.
And they're thinking that he's been swapped out. If you look at his facial structure in old pictures and then pictures now, he doesn't look the same. His body doesn't look the same. And they're thinking that he was switched out by a double.
Yeah, kind of like with Dave Chappelle for that like little while in that one stage where Dave kind of changed all of his views and his ideologies, and people were wondering that about him. They're wondering about that with Kanye now, like Kanye clone. They said a clone, but I could see a body double more than a clone.
Well, didn't Saddam Hussein have like 10 of them? So it's definitely possible.
Yeah, but that's a ridiculous man with a lot of power.
Kanye's a billionaire.
Kanye probably got more money than he did.
Yeah, but
if you ask me, I think Kim Kardashian just turned him insane more than he already was.
They do that to men. That family loves to do that to dudes.
Man.
That was
what they did to Bruce Jenner.
Balenciaga went out and they started posting. They're advertising and they were putting kids in BDSM outfits, and like that was using that as their advertisement for their new line of clothing and this and that. And Kanye was all tied up with Balenciaga, and he was like, no, I'm not dealing with them anymore. He told Kim Kardashian to get out of it too. And that was right before all this transpired.
Yeah.
And Balenciaga is if you look up the symbolism, they're Baal worshipers. They worship Baal.
The demon.
Yeah. And Baal was the demon Baal, if you get into the lore, is the demon of child sacrifice.
I mean, I could see, like, with what you're saying, I could see, like, him just either quitting the music industry and them doing that as kind of punish or tarnish him, or career suicide. I mean, or a mental breakdown. One of the three.
I think he's just crazy.
I could see it being a mental breakdown and then him coming out on the back end and just coming back in and saying, no, I meant to do it because, it's fucking crazy. There's a lot of reasons that much money and that much fame for that long.
Right.
It's crazy though that it keeps happening. It keeps happening to all these artists though. Like it happened to Britney. Have you seen Britney Spears lately? All she can do is just smile and dance, and that's it. Like she's just a caricature of herself. I mean,
There's a video of her and she's dancing, and for a split second when she covers her face like this, the filter goes off and you can see that it's not her.
Yeah.
It's just somebody with a filter on.
You had freaking Aaron Carter that he had all that, like, I think he got groomed by somebody, and then like he had he got Whitney Houston.
I loved Whitney Houston's interview where she's lying about not being on crack. That was one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen, man. Oh, that's a poor person's drug. I'm not poor. It's just like clearly scratching.
The funny thing about it is, though, crack wasn't a poor people's drug. Like there was just as many rich white people doing crack, and it was very popular in Wall Street. A lot of Wall Street guys loved crack. Loved it.
I got a friend that's a Wall Street yuppie that he loves crack and hookers.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you make a lot of money, right? I mean, what else are you doing if you're rich? Okay.
He was like, I don't know how I'm going to explain the gap in my resume. And he was like, I've got a 2-year gap. And he's like, how am I going to explain that? Because I've been in rehab for crack. And I was like, I don't know, bud. Like, you're on your own on that one.
But we talked we talked about Charles Manson and his involvement in MK Ultra on a previous episode, and he was like trying to get in like his little cult stuff into the music industry. Didn't happen for him, but like, I mean, you were talking about it earlier. What if these people are getting indoctrinated by this, and anytime they try to step out of the norm, this is how they punish them?
Sounds like Scientology to me.
Scientology, like that dude. I hate the fact that
Same kind of deal.
Beck is one of my favorite artists, and he's a full-fledged Scientologist.
He won?
Yeah, dude,
It's
it sucks.
disappointing.
I
Well,
love
he just
Beck.
got Danny Masterson.
Yeah,
That's
He was
a whole.
one.
So Scientology, one of the things that they do a really good job at is suing people and maintaining lawsuits up until they can't anymore. And they like I think they took Time magazine, I want to say, all the way to the Supreme Court because of it. It wasn't even that bad of a headline. It was just a mildly distracting headline that was derogatory towards Scientology. So they can stay on power using the system. So every time I hear about them, it gets crazier.
All it is a pyramid scheme.
well,
It's a
was it
pyramid
like our
scheme disguised as a religion, but because of the way our system is set up, can't do shit about it because it's a religion.
on one of our first or second episodes, I mentioned how L. Ron Hubbard had ties with people that worked with Charles Manson and with people that worked in MK Ultra, and then he went on to create the Church of Scientology, which has a lot of people in the music industry and Hollywood. Fucking high. They had Isaac Hayes too, man. I loved Isaac Hayes.
Oh, yeah. Swinging it back to South Park.
Yeah.
It's always South Park.
That episode, whenever like they were trying to save him from Scientology, and they just used like all of his dubbed voices. I'm gonna make sweet love to children.
Oh, yeah. He was in the child molester group.
Yeah.
That's too much time
They
talking
wound up
about that
killing him.
topic here.
It's crazy that all these elite clubs all go back to that though. Like all of these elite clubs go back to like children. You know what I'm saying? And
See, I don't know why they don't just hunt people. They have islands. Put people on there. There's somebody.
The only thing I can think of
that's going on somewhere.
is I think it's just to compromise people. Like it's like, all right, well, you've got this dirt on your hands now. I mean, they were inviting like people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and people in control of science, government, art, industry, and like that to go to this island, even if they weren't involved in everything that was going on there. They'd bring them there and be like, click, and take a picture of them and be like, now you're compromised, pal. You're gonna have to do what we want you to do.
Please, man. Well, before we get too far off the beaten path, I did want to read a quote that I came across. This is from Baxter Dimitri. He's a writer for The People's Voice. The largest owner of Core Civic, formerly Corrections Corporation of America, is the Vanguard Group. The Vanguard Group is the number one largest holder in both Viacom and Time Warner. Vanguard is the largest holder of the GEO Group, which is the second largest owner of the private prisons in the entire United States. So the crossover and ownership between the music industry and private prisons is beyond disturbing. So just to make it clear, the people who own the media are responsible for putting out gangster rap at the center of the youth culture and are the very same people who own the prisons. Now, this is, I believe, all ties back to the George Bush, the Nixon, Bush, and Reagan years, because this is when we start seeing the Contra affairs, where we start seeing a lot of the government interference in grassroots political movements. And I think that this really gets an emphasis, like an exclamation point on it, when you look at the idea that once that era of politics ended, crime in the United States began to drop dramatically.
Yep.
So
It just
I can't
sucks.
say with any hard evidence that George Bush is, or even just the government, CIA, FBI, are directly involved with the music industries and their ability to push out gangster rap. However, there is a lot of evidence that points to them being involved. And there's even more evidence that they benefited from it in an immense way. I mean, for Christ's sake, George Bush got his idiot son elected.
Yeah.
It wasn't even the good
See, what
Bush.
I want to know, if he was so powerful, how did he not win that second term?
George, that's
Did
a
he
good
piss
one right there,
someone
right?
off? He had to have pissed someone off, right?
Well, I mean, Clinton has ties. I talked to this in the last episode. When it came to the Iran Contra, when they were flying and smuggling the cocaine in, they were landing the planes in Arkansas while Bill Clinton was the governor, and he was well
Oh,
aware.
that's right. Yeah, they did a
He
movie
was,
on that.
yeah,
They did
he was,
fuck, what's his name? Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is in it. He plays the guy.
Scientology.
yeah,
I can't
he
remember
was
his name.
he was well aware of what was going on with it. So no matter what, you had somebody that was working within like ties to the CIA, and it just happened that
Mhm.
they, he barely won that election too, because the thing about that threw everybody off was Ross Perot. Like Bush probably would
Yeah,
have won that had it not been.
without
And
him.
see, Ross Perot probably could have won if he didn't have like just like Ron Paul could have won if they didn't have like people working against conspiring against him like they did like the news, the mainstream media and everything. Because I know that there's like a certain amount you have to reach to even get on the ballot, and he was well above that. He still had like 20% of the popular vote, which is impressive for somebody that's not a Democrat or a Republican. And honestly,
He
I
spent a
think
lot of money.
that's probably going to be the way of the future, because people are fucking tired of the left and the right and all this shit. Unless like they keep dividing everybody. But with what you were talking about a minute ago, Richard, it's kind of fucked up when it comes to the prison industry complex. So in the 13th Amendment, which is one of our best amendments we have, they have it hidden in there that you could prisoners get paid 13 cents an hour. So like they're working for pretty much slavery.
Yo, yeah.
And you can't you'll never get that reform, because the second you try to get someone in there to be like, we need to reform the 13th Amendment, you're going to have people shoot that down like, you want to change the one that sets people free. What is wrong with you? You are a racist. But if you're trying to change that one part of it, it's never going to happen. So they want that so they can get that free labor. It's ridiculous.
It's where a lot of like military uniforms come from. There's also like even here, one of the biggest employers in my area is a Bob Barker
Oh,
industry.
yeah.
Yeah, they make pencils and paper, and like it's all on prison labor.
Yep.
So that's fun. It's sad and depressing, but you're right.
Well, that's
I
how it
heard a
used to be, right?
statistic
They used
the
to do
other day.
the railroad ways too.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
They'd use prison labor for that too. Any hard labor jobs.
Yeah.
I heard a statistic the other day that those missiles that they're firing out of Gaza, each one of those cost 10 grand that they've been trying to rain down on Israel. And Israel, I think, is costing them 50 grand to shoot those missiles out of the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you're weighing the options of, hey, should we take a missile strike?
Yeah.
I'm
Or
just
can we
saying,
just
like,
burn some cash?
that's some serious cash burn. And then you got the conflict in Russia and Ukraine. Like, how expensive is that? Where's that? Who's writing that money? They just, okay, we're gonna take it as far as it goes, and we'll figure out the money later. Like,
We
are they
are.
just approving everything? Like, where's this
Yeah,
budget
we
coming?
are.
We're doing
so-
it, and this is our way of paying back or getting back some money towards our debts. I mean, it's the same thing with Ukraine. That's why we have no problem giving $100 billion, $80 billion, is because later on we're going to be like, hey, you owe us that. By the way, we know you got all those pockets of natural gas and oil. We're going to make you start selling it, but you got to sell it in dollars, which means you got to keep dollars, so that way our currency stays afloat.
And we our entire history is built on the fact that go fuck yourself. and because we have the best military.
Oh
And
yeah.
the way we stay in power is continuing to churn out military dollars, dude. So, yay,
Yeah, right.
America. So, John,
Yes.
or let's go, Dan. Dan, you've been thinking about this for a little bit. What's your top 5 reasons to hate South Carolina?
So one thing that I don't like about them is that little rooster goatee. That's very popular down there. A lot of them talk with that foghorn leghorn accent. I say now. In fact, I think foghorn leghorn is supposed to be a South Carolinian. The fact that everything looks slapped together in that town. Oh, and that giant stupid peach they have at the water
I
tower.
was going to say that.
Let's see what I'm up to, like 3 or 4.
We'll go 4. I'm not
Okay.
counting. I'm not keeping track.
And just the fact that, and I covered it last week, that every time anything, like, they want to secede, and it's like we keep on bringing them back, and like, why do we keep bringing them back? We could just have one Carolina, and everything could be so much better. And in fact, we share our sports teams with them. The Carolina Hurricanes, the Carolina Panthers. Like, why do we have to
but
share them with them?
Where are those? Where are they located though?
Right? Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't think there's a single person in South Carolina who cares about the Carolina Hurricanes.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Well, you change the name to North Carolina Hurricanes, we'll see them start. Well, we won't see them write anything because they can't.
I believe that we started that border. They were just like, oh, these are the South Carolinians, because I just they were so awful. You know what I mean? We're like, we're not part of that Carolina.
The other Carolina.
I want to say that mosquitoes. There's like 10 billion mosquitoes per square inch there.
They voted in the last election
season, and that's fucking Hades. It's hot as hell, dude. I mean, like there's like very mild winter, but I wouldn't call it winter. It's like not summer and then summer there.
Yeah.
The peach, I hate that stupid thing. They're not Georgia. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are they claiming the peach?
Just stole it.
Yeah, they probably literally stole it.
Sat my dog down on the ground for 5 seconds, and that dog came back with more fleas than I thought was possible. And this dog was only like 12 inches long. It was a tiny little thing. You know what I'm saying? Infested with fleas. I've never seen so many fleas.
And that's just for shits and gigs on a Wednesday.
And then the people there are like cockroaches. They
hold Bill Murray captive. They won't let us have him back.
As soon as the sun comes up, they scatter and hide in the darkness. You know what I mean? They're awful.
He said the people are like cockroaches, not they like cockroaches.
No, they are cockroaches.
That's terrible.
And during the really serious part of the pandemic, I showed up there wearing a mask, and some guy was like, "That's stupid. Why would you wear that thing, man?" I say, if you're gonna die, let God go ahead and take you out, man. And I was like, this is why you guys are South Carolina.
Were you talking to Stinky from Hey Arnold? Hi, man.
And it was the worst sandwich I've ever gotten. It was an awful sandwich.
South Carolina sandwich. Was it mustard based?
Yeah.
That's so gross. That's terrible.
Oh yeah.
You know how bad it has to be you know how awful you have to be to make bad barbecue.
Yeah.
That's the thing is North Carolina
it's incredibly
barbecue
hard.
It's good, like, you know, for the most part.
Both types.
You know what I'm saying? And they want to claim that they're part of this whole thing. Well, we got the Carolina barbecue. No, you do it bad. You do it awful.
Yeah.
Do it terrible. You know, I remember, like, because you see it every once in a while, like the debate of what's barbecue's the best. They are not even considered. It's like they don't even put them on the show.
They put Alabama's mayonnaise-based stuff over top of South Carolina's.
God, Alabama. We say
I
Alabama.
put Chinese food over South Carolina.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Put duck sauce on anything. You can't put.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Dude.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I was gonna say, coming back to we were talking about pest talk earlier. One of the places that I lived in that had a roach infestation, I saw an albino cockroach eating another albino cockroach. That was fucking fantastically crazy.
It's actually not a. That's not an albino cockroach. That is a roach
It's
that has
juvenile,
shed
right?
skin.
Oh,
So they
yeah.
molt. They shed their skin, right? So what's disturbing about that is they shed their skin. They're the most vulnerable they're ever going to be. They're out walking freely. That's how bad the problem is. Those guys usually they go hide and they wait till their cuticle to start hardening up. Yeah, you didn't see an albino roach, Dan.
He was walking around in the nude.
Yep, you saw a naked roach who was cool with it.
Before I have to get off of here now, since both of y'all worked in pest control, do we really like absolutely try to kill? Or do they try to kill them, or do they try to just redirect them from rich neighborhoods to poor neighborhoods?
I've heard that.
Well, so there are two different types of people who pay for pest control. People who need it and people who want it. And the people who want it typically don't have problems. And when you start seeing bug problems inside poor neighborhoods, it's some of it's mental health, some of it's up like you're not raised to live in a clean household. And that just continues. And so when you have houses that aren't sealed all the way, properly sealed with window fittings, things like that, you're going to get bugs. And when you're insides, you're free to get inside and it's messy. Why leave?
I'm gonna add to that too. When it comes to like apartments, if you get rid of them in one apartment, a lot of times they'll go to the next one because they'll go through the walls. So sometimes it's not even your fault.
Yeah.
It depends on like the
Neighbors.
structure you're living in.
Yeah, I remember I used to
Sometimes
feel.
you just bring them out with a box. You get it from the store. It's really easy. Or if you get stuff from like thrift stores and shit, you get bed bugs that way too.
Yeah,
It's nasty.
I remember
man.
I felt so bad for the toilet roaches compared to the kitchen roaches. I was like, man, the kitchen roaches have it so good. I felt sympathy for the toilet. I was like, those poor bastards are eating sink funk and toilet sludge.
Speaking of bed bugs, have y'all heard about the bed bug infestation in France?
Oh, it's
Dan
all
brought
Europe
up
now.
different countries, but yeah, sure, Europe in general.
Yeah, they're so resistant to pesticides and everything that they don't know what they're going to do at this point.
So European pest control is very different than American pest control because they actually care about their people and their environment. We don't. So we have some pretty like we have some pretty. I mean, granted, there's rules and stuff, right? But like nicotine based pesticides are banned over there.
Yeah.
Not over here. So they're working with less effective material, and their European countries are considerably smaller than America. Like we have I live in a single family home, and there's a whole group of single family homes around me. A lot of the population over there lives in townhouses, apartments. It's just the way they built their right. So you end up with 5, 6, 7 places that are just infested with bed bugs. You treat all of them, get rid of them, or you treat 2 of them, and then the other 5 still have them because people have different thresholds and problems. Like I know, people come like immigrating from like India, like China, where they're it's just part of life. They don't care. You know what I mean? They just deal with it and they live with it, and they come over, and it's not as acceptable here. So that propagates a problem. Now you have this problem here, but yeah, no, it's hard to say what's going on over there. I'll have to look into it. It's been a while since I've looked at anything bug related, but I know that we have pesticides that are available to us that they don't have over there. And that is probably why they're being resistant. So
Yeah, they probably put a lot of cilantro and lemon zest in it too. Whenever
it's weird shit.
it's more inviting to the roaches than anything. Well, listen, guys, I'm about to die. Not me die personally, but my phone. So I got to skedaddle.
We'll
It's been
talk to you
nice
later,
talking to
Dan.
you. I appreciate you coming on. And like I said, I checked out your music. I really like it a lot, man. Keep it up.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
Thanks.
it. It was nice meeting
All
you,
right.
Dan.
You too. Y'all take care.
Catch you
All
later.
right, buddy.
You got anything you want to talk about before we go, John?
No, like I'm good.
You're good? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Jimbo, we certainly appreciate you taking time to come on tonight. And we will,
Yeah, man, it's
we
fun.
will send me some
kinda-
links.
I would like to have you on again in the future, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Sound good,
It was,
Richard?
it was a fun conversation, John. You have to go back and listen to it.
Oh, definitely.
I think you would have had several opportunities to jump in and add a lot to the conversations that we had, and especially when you have somebody who is as knowledgeable about music as Jimbo is. It's fun stuff. So,
Right.
well, boys, you guys enjoy your night, and John, hang out for just a second, will you?
Yeah, I can.